How to buy, borrow, die with First Tech Federal Credit Union. What is buy, borrow, die? Why do the wealthy love this financial strategy? And how can we implement this financial strategy as everyday people, working class Americans, and solopreneurs and small business owners? I'm going to actually show you exactly or break down exactly what this strategy is, why it's so effective at not only building wealth, but preserving it, and also how you can actually start to exercise this financial strategy as a working class American, as a non-high net worth individual. So first off, what is buy, borrow, die? Buy, borrow, die is a coined financial term that basically breaks down the ultimate financial or wealth creation strategy. Buy an asset, borrow from that asset, and repeat that process until you die. So you buy the asset, you borrow from the equity of the asset, buy more assets, borrow from the equity of those assets, and continue to repeat this process until you pass away. The financial system around us absolutely salivates at this strategy because the banks, the government, and the overall economy benefit greatly when we exercise this strategy. And it incentivizes us and rewards us for participating in the economy in that way. So buy, borrow, die breaks down to you actually going out, taking the risk to go out and buy an asset. This could be real estate, stocks, could be another business. That asset performs, develops equity and cash flow, or some form of equity growth at least. You turn around, you park it with the bank, or you collateralize it with the bank, borrow from the available equity, and go out and get another asset. This does a few things. It stimulates economic activity, which leads to job creation. It leads to money flowing. It also creates tax revenue. So you creating jobs gives other people income to be taxed. You are also going to be paying state, local, and federal taxes on some level. And the list goes on. The banking system benefits because you're borrowing money, which is their profit center. So the entire power structure around our economic system is benefiting from this strategy. And in order to incentivize us to participate in the economy this way, the banks, the government, they give us various incentives and rewards for functioning this way. So hopefully that makes sense. Comment down below if that's the most simplistic and basic breakdown I can give you of buy, borrow, die. Can give you a lot of high-level technical terms and breakdowns if you want it. But the goal of this channel is to bring you financial literacy and allow that financial literacy to help you turn words into wealth. So the goal is to give you a good technical breakdown without it being complex. So comment down below if I achieve that with the buy, borrow, die strategy, and getting you a better understanding if you weren't already familiar. Now, we know that this is a high net worth strategy, no question about it. We start talking about some of the richest people in the world. A lot of them, CEOs like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they get paid oftentimes in stock, shares of stock in the companies that they own and that they run. They don't get salaries much. And if they do get a salary, it's literally $1, $10, $100, $100,000. It's minimal, but somehow they're worth billions. They're paid in stock in the company that they own. They park those stocks with the financial institution, a wealth management firm, whatever the case may be. And that financial institution, private bank, wealth management firm holds that, secures that asset for them, and then turns around and lends them cash off of that asset, with that asset being collateral. So now the bank is lending out whatever portion of that asset to you in cash, 30, 40, 50% of it. And you're able to take that cash, live your life, and buy more assets. You never have to sell the asset. It continues to grow in value. The bank is lending you dirt cheap money. You go out and deploy most of that money into more assets. You keep the rest to afford your lifestyle. You're generating economic activity. So the government loves you and they give you tax incentives. So you have little to no taxes by the time the strategy is over. And when you kick the bucket eventually, this same asset gets passed on to your heirs or a trust or whatever the case may be at what's called a step up in basis, an accounting term to basically break down that the value of that asset once passed down is now the new basis of that asset, meaning that they don't count all of the growth that asset had when you first purchased it. So maybe to put some numbers around this, you had $1 million stock portfolio, you put that with a private bank, you did the buy, borrow, die all the way up until you passed away. When you passed away, it grew to $10 million. Where the bank, the government is not going to tax you on the $9 million in gains that you got over your lifetime. They're not going to tax your heirs for that $9 million. The $10 million is now the new principal basis of that asset. And so it basically washes away what could be a taxable $9 million in capital gains, or at least capital gains tax on $9 million gained over the lifetime of that investment. So again, hopefully that makes sense. How do we deploy this strategy as everyday people who are not high net worth yet? This is where First Tech Federal Credit Union and other financial institutions like it come into play. So what we need to do is figure out, how do we establish our relationship with the financial institutions and work our way up to acquiring assets, leveraging against those assets, acquiring more assets, and continuing this cycle along with some proper legacy planning to pass this whole strategy and the assets and this wealth down to our heirs with no tax bill. Let's take a look at a financial institution that's fully accessible to all of us for the most part in First Tech Federal Credit Union. For those of you who may be unaware of First Tech Credit Union, they are based on the West Coast and they cater to a certain demographic, generally speaking. So this is generally going to be a technology related credit union, right? So a lot of credit unions, they are niche to a specific field or possibly a different geography, whatever the case may be. So there's a fireman's credit union. There's credit unions on college campuses dedicated to that college campus. The police department has credit unions. So these financial institutions embed themselves in certain cultures and subcultures. So it could be a school, it could be a profession, the list goes on. In this particular case, it's going to be technology related companies and people with tech related backgrounds or related working for companies that are tech focused. So you can see here, if we are screen sharing appropriately, give me a second to make sure that I get the right screen up, but we'll pause on that for now. But basically, we're looking at companies like Amazon and Microsoft to be examples, okay? So how do you get in if you're not working for one of these companies or in the geography of the West Coast or have a family member that's in with First Tech? The easiest way to get in, which is how I got in, was joining an organization called Financial Fitness Association. This affiliation allows you membership into credit unions like First Tech Federal Credit Union and many others. You pay a very, very small, maybe $10 fee to join, and you're supporting that organization, which also has great resources, by the way. And you're also getting access to several different credit unions across the country. Now, we've got ourselves in the First Tech Federal Credit Union. The first thing we need to do is establish the banking relationship. For those of you who aren't aware, private banks, for-profit banks, the checking account is the center of the ecosystem of the banking relationship. As to basically say that they don't consider the banking relationship solidified until you have a checking account with them. You can open a savings account at a private for-profit bank with $100,000 and not open a checking account, and they're not going to pay you the same rate. They're not going to pay you a relationship rate on that savings, even though you just dropped the $100,000 in that account. It doesn't matter. They're going to pay you the baseline worst rate that they have to offer because you're not banking with them on the maximum level, which is your checking account. Credit unions, non-for-profit credit unions are the opposite. It's savings accounts for them. For credit unions, establishing a savings account will solidify that banking relationship. So with First Tech Federal Credit Union, you're going to want to establish your savings account and branch out to a checking account with them, okay? We'll just take a really quick look here at the various deposit products that they have to offer. As you can see, there's multiple different checking account and saving account options, many of which don't have high or any maintenance fees and offer some great benefits, perks, and rewards. This is a very modernized credit union. They're not like one of these archaic, hole in the wall credit unions. And those are great too, because a lot of times there's great personal service and rates, but a lot of them have poor technology, poor websites, very, very difficult to function with them in the modern world. First Tech is really, really up on their game when it comes to their technology and their website. So you see, we established the base of the relationship: checking account, savings account, set up your direct deposit, build some balances in your savings account. And now that we've solidified that basic banking, we want to start to slowly work our way into using more of their products. So we got a decent deposit relationship going, decent checking, decent savings account, got some direct deposits, got some savings building up. We're using some of the additional features that come with the account. We work our way over to borrowing with them. We're not trying to dive off a cliff head first and get a portfolio loan from First Tech when we first walk in the door. No financial institution, even if you have means, is going to feel comfortable doing that. So you need to establish a healthy deposit relationship and then graduate yourself into borrowing from them. And First Tech has a plethora of borrowing options that allow you to gradually develop that relationship. There's multiple different credit cards here, as you can see, with their flagship credit card being the Odyssey Rewards Worldwide Elite, which goes up to, from my research, up to 75,000 in limits. That may have even gone higher in recent times, but a very, very, very decent level that you can reach with them in the credit card section with First Tech Federal Credit Union. There's multiple other credit cards that have several other rewards programs that are very useful for everyday use and travel. You can also work your way over to various personal loan options. There's fixed rate personal loans. Personal line of credit is a nice financial tool that can be very good for balancing cash flow if need be. And then there's CD and savings secured loans. These are going to be some of my favorite products for credit building, credit rebuilding, and relationship building with a bank. Certificate of deposit secured loans and savings secured loans allow you to put up cash as collateral, get extended that same equivalent of cash to you as a loan. And if you're smart, you just allow that money to sit in your deposit account, allow the bank to draw the money back out as a form of payment, and they report payment activity on an installment history on your credit report. Internally, for relationship banking purposes, this allows First Tech to have deposits on hand from you, your first experience borrowing from them, and then you having the prudence to not necessarily deploy that money and simply allow them to draw it back out and start to open up the door to a borrowing relationship with this institution. So they charge very little interest over what you're getting paid on a deposit account your money's parked in. So if you have a savings or CD and they're giving you 2 or 3%, the secured loan that they're going to offer you on the back end probably won't be more than 1 or 2% higher than that. So it's very low cost and a very effective way to grow, expand, or rebuild your credit, on top of establishing a great relationship and dipping your foot in the water with this credit union and allowing them to get used to working with you on that level. So there's multiple options. There's even student loan refinancing here. This is a big one. There's a student loan crisis going on right now in this country, with millions of Americans being forced to repay or drowning in student loan debt that they can't afford. These financial institutions like First Tech Federal Credit Union are offering student loan refinance alternatives. A lot of people don't even know they can turn to the banks and credit unions and potentially get some reprieve from some of their student loans through refinances or consolidations. So First Tech Federal Credit Union is offering this. And again, another great way to expand the relationship banking with First Tech while giving yourself a financial boost along the way by using a useful product for you and easing your way in with First Tech. There's auto loans here as well. Now, you've developed a deposit relationship. You've dipped your toe in the water with borrowing, maybe with a credit card or two, a personal loan, a student loan. You see here we have home loan options, which is great if you don't already own your home or you're working on your primary residence. But that's not the basis of this video. We need to jump over to how do we start getting access to the lending products that's going to allow us to exercise buy, borrow, or die. That's where we're going to work our way over to options like commercial lending. So with commercial lending, this is going to be real estate focused in particular. As you can see here, loan programs here are going to allow you to take down and invest in real estate like multifamily, office and industrial buildings, retail or mixed-use buildings, self-storage buildings, mobile home parks, flagged hotels such as Holiday Inns, Marriott's, Clarion, etc., and even healthcare facilities. There's loans for that with First Tech Federal Credit Union. Now, these are the types of assets that you secure. The bank is going to automatically, through underwriting, make sure that this is a reasonable deal that already has equity in it and has future potential growth for equity and cash flow. So you have a little bit of a backstop to make sure you're making a decent investment, because the bank's not going to fund it if it's not. So when you get this asset, now we're going to just assume that you made a smart decision and that you were able to secure one of these forms of real estate, and think multifamily, as 5 units and up. So small apartment buildings all the way up. And I'm not sure with First Tech if that's like as far down as 5 units or if there's a certain size, but likelihood is there's a broad base from 5 units all the way up to 50 or 100 unit apartment complexes that may be available with First Tech for you to take down. So a wonderful way to get into rental real estate investing. You can see here there's portfolio loan programs available, right? So property funding for $500,000 to $10 million plus. So that means basically, if you were buying a small portfolio of rental properties from another investor or another landlord, this is the kind of funding you're going to turn to buy those properties in bulk versus taking out individual loans. This leads to a scenario that's a stabilized portfolio of assets for the financial institutions, so they like to lend on it. You're going to save money and get a better borrowing opportunity or a better loan package because you're buying those multiple assets at one time. And likely the investor is going to sell it to you at a better price because you're buying it in bulk as well. So a win-win-win. Properties located in all 50 states except Louisiana, of course, the state that I'm in, but that's neither here nor there. So they are available all over the country. As you can see, this is not something that you're stuck in the West Coast where they're stationed at to exercise. Broker friendly. So that basically means that there could be a broker working in between on this deal. Benefits like no prepayment penalties, loans are held with First Tech on fixed rates, recourse required, borrower global cash flow qualifications required. So what that basically means is your personal income of other businesses and assets you may have, and the assets you're looking to borrow will all be assessed to qualify. Strong borrower credit profit, 60-day closings. So without getting into the weeds much further, this is going to be the lending portfolio that allows us to get into our first significant level asset. So we've now hopefully branched our way into the buy part of the buy, borrow, die. So I want to show you another area that you can exercise this. And that's going to be covering the fact that they have an investment platform through Raymond James Investing here at First Tech Federal Credit Union. Now, what's interesting about this, let's take a look at the learn more. They're working with a broker dealer to help you be able to set up your actual stock portfolio with them. So a stock portfolio that you build from scratch, you can even include stuff like rolling over 401ks from your job or previous employers, or IRAs and consolidating those and rolling those over. You can do this right here with First Tech Federal Credit Union in-house for the most part. They're partnered with a broker dealer that offers wealth management and investing services. This is where the buy, borrow, die kicks in on the stock side. Now you put your portfolio together with First Tech Federal Credit Union. You get up to a certain dollar amount, which I believe is $100,000 with them, and you can start to borrow from your stock portfolio from them. Those of you who follow the channel already know that I'm a huge advocate for buy, borrow, die, especially when it comes to securities-based lines of credit, because these lending tools allow you to develop your asset, which is basically in a stock sense, the buy portion, borrow against that asset, securities-based line of credit, which gives you a line of credit with no credit check, minimal documentation, usually up to somewhere around 50% of your portfolio, keeps your money 100% invested, gets you a low interest rate line of credit that's cash available. You can deploy into other assets, oftentimes only having an interest only payment for an extended window of time on this. So that means the cash flow works more in your favor because you don't have a fully amortized principal and interest payment early on. And you're able to go out and get more real estate or invest in a business. This is the buy borrow portion that we're checking off. We've bought the real estate. We've started or grown a stock portfolio. We go back in house to borrow against these assets and buy more assets. This is where you repeat this process over and over. Now we get over to the legacy planning portion. As you can see, First Tech has a plentiful product lineup of insurance products. And this is part of the legacy planning. They have everything from accidental death and dismemberment all the way to homeowners, landlord insurance for the rental property that you hopefully just took down, life insurance for part of your legacy planning, and all of this umbrella insurance, which is going to allow you to have supportive coverage over the top of all of your regular auto and home insurance in case you're sued beyond your insurance limits. So business insurance for the business that you may have just taken down, or the commercial property that you just took down, or the commercial vehicle that you're driving around in that's in your business's name. This is all part of legacy planning. This is all part of legacy planning. It's not just the investment part. It's the what if part. How do I insure the assets that I just purchased? This is all integrated into the buy, borrow, die. And as you can see, First Tech is plentiful for the products you need to exercise this strategy. I'm able to start my banking relationship, developing the personal finances and the credit I need to get in position to now go towards their commercial lending arena, buy my first rental property, multifamily property, mobile home park, or a portfolio of single family rentals, secure that asset, go back to refinance out and take equity out, or the same thing with my stock portfolio. They have a connection to an official broker dealer in Raymond James, which is a well-established brokerage firm that I can start my stock portfolio with, roll over old 401ks or IRAs into, grow it to a certain size, and they're going to let me borrow against that portfolio without disturbing it to go out and purchase more assets. I can turn around within the same credit union that I only needed $10 to join, by the way, and insure most of these assets, including myself and my business and anything in my business's name, to establish my legacy planning, which eventually, when the die part of the strategy kicks in, will pass cash to my heirs, make sure these assets that I'm passing to them have been protected from lawsuits and other potential risk or peril that could face them. And then the government's going to turn around and reward me for doing this process over and over in my investment life, in my lifetime, by allowing the assets I pass down to be repositioned to the value or valuation at my death as the new baseline. So there's nothing to tax. All of this just happened inside of an extremely accessible credit union. All of this just happened inside of a credit union. It took me $10 and maybe a business day to join. That's how that works. And that's how everyday people who are not high net worth like yourself or myself can be exercising these strategies with financial institutions and working our way into high net worth, practicing these strategies on the ground with very accessible financial institutions like First Tech. This isn't a private wealth fund, or this isn't a wealth management firm. This isn't a private bank. This is literally a credit union that you can join for $10 with a useful nonprofit association, by the way. Get in with, start a small deposit relationship, get some useful financial tools to borrow from to lay down the foundation of the relationship, and then dive into some of their higher end commercial lending tools, branch over to their stock investing portfolio and their wealth management division, borrow from that if I use that as my asset basis, and then insure it all in one financial institution until I pass away, passing all of these assets down to my heirs, or the trust that I may put it in for my heirs to be able to own and navigate and to secure those assets and make sure that bad decisions by my heirs or them getting married to the wrong person doesn't take away from these assets that I built up my whole lifetime. And I can do so without a tax bill for myself or my estate or my heirs. And I did all of this without leaving a very, very accessible basic credit union. So I want y'all to comment down below and let me know what you think. Let me know what you've learned. Let me know if this made sense for you, if this empowered you or maybe inspired you to think, hell, I might be able to do this even though I'm not high net worth. I might be able to roll over a couple of old 401ks and get to that, reasonable level of a stock portfolio with First Tech, or I might be able to get my finances in a position where I can buy that first 5-unit small apartment complex and start to exercise the strategy. Those assets start to grow and compound on their own. So they're going to do the heavy lifting of building the equity and expanding the cash flow position if it's real estate or a dividend stock portfolio. All you have to do is manage the asset. And First Tech's going to let you borrow against it, insure it. The government's going to turn around and reward you with tax benefits during your lifetime and gift your heirs the asset tax-free. So comment down below and let me know, what do you think about this strategy exercise with a completely accessible, non-high net worth set of circumstances in First Tech Federal Credit Union? And let me know if you would like to see more videos covering these types of financial strategies with more accessible financial institutions that any of us can reach. Comment down below and let me know what you think. So all my pioneers, welcome back. To my new viewers, welcome in. I want you to get in the description section down below, tie in with me on Instagram, putting out more and more content there like this and beyond, giving you information and inspiration so you can continue to increase your financial knowledge, allowing you to increase the action that you take to increase your net worth, which leads to a higher quality of life. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel so the channel can continue to support you. And I'm out. I want every single one of you to stay focused, stay in motion, and I'll see y'all soon.